Okay, moving on to Confit now. Now, Confit is a preservation method, first and foremost. They were able to preserve meat basically in its own fat, stored at room temperature as they needed it. The fat sealed it, made an airtight barrier, could keep all the bacteria and stuff out. Just took out what they needed, resealed it with the fat. Also has a pretty high salt content, which also helps preserve the meat. So you're going to see a lot of salt going into this. So we've rendered our fat. Some of our chicken stock going in the back. We rendered the fat down off our chicken skin. And we're not going to need that much since we are going to do it sous vide in a vacuum bag. If we were doing this before without a vacuum, we would probably need at least 6 or 8 times the amount of fat we're going to do it in. But now we're going to place our leg and thighs in this dish. And we're going to start off by just curing it a little bit overnight with our salt. Get a nice coating of salt on there. And make sure it's all covered. And we're also going to use herbs. Fresh thyme. Use a bay leaf. Break that up a little bit. And again, peppercorns, just like we have in the stock. A lot of the same ingredients when it comes to classic French cuisine, cooking. So we're just going to coat these. Make sure we get our herbs all dispersed. That's why we broke the bay leaf up. And to make sure everything has a nice coating of salt. Those peppercorns on there. We will be rinsing this off before we confit it. So now we're just really going to start almost curing the meat. So we have that done. We're going to cover this and we're going to refrigerate it for about 24 hours. And we'll come back, put it in the vacuum bag with our rendered chicken fat, and we're going to sous vide it to confit. Okay, it's been 24 hours. Our chicken legs and thighs have been in the cure. Took them out, rinsed them off, patted them dry with a little paper towel. And you can really tell a difference in the texture of the flesh here. Really firmed up. That's what the salt cure does to it. Start that preservation. So now we're going to get these into our vacuum bags. We're going to sous vide them. Because really we rendered off the fat. We didn't get too much fat. If you were doing this the traditional way, you would need a lot of this, and you just go to your freezer and pull out your quart container of duck fat. You would take your pan, put your legs and thighs in there, cover them with duck fat, put them on a low simmer in a low oven for at least an hour, 2 hours, or even more, depending on how tender and fall off the bone you want. But for this, we are just going to vacuum it and sous vide it. So I'm going to do the legs together. When we do the sous vide, we need a lot less fat because the fat will melt in the water bath and just circulate around it, essentially confitting it the entire time. So we'll put our legs in one bag, thighs in the other. Okay. And then we'll just have to add our fat. And we're not going to add any other seasonings to this, as we've seasoned the meat with that cure over the last 24 hours. So we'll take our nice chicken fat we rendered, put that in the bag. Another important thing to remember, you want to keep them nice and dry and pat them dry after they're out of that cure. They pick up a lot of extra moisture, and because the salt will draw the moisture out. So you really want to pat them dry with that paper towel, because when we're going to vacuum this, we don't want any extra moisture in these bags. Could prevent a good seal. So we've got them in the bags. The chicken fat, and now we just have to seal them, get them into the bath. We're going to do 176 degrees. I just sous vide some custard at that temperature, so I'm reusing it. making the most of it. You can do it at 158 degrees, 147 degrees. When you sous vide, it's a nice thing. You just have to change the time and the temperature. It's really everything when it comes to cooking, and especially sous vide. But just a little adjustment in time or temperature can make a big difference. Okay, we have vacuum sealed our thighs, legs. We're going to drop them in the hot tub. And we'll let these cook for about 12 to 16 hours. Come back tomorrow, take them out, and sear them off, get that extra skin nice and crispy. Another thing you can do with the skin on, it just helps, that skin will just render as it's cooking. So the skin on just adds a little extra fat, and when you take it out, you can crisp that skin up really well in a pan after you bring it out. Alright. Okay, our confit has been cooking overnight. You can see all that extra liquid in there, all that fat. A lot of that fat rendered off of that chicken thigh that we did not take the skin off of still. So now, it's easier to work with when it's still a little warm. Just pull this out, the water bath here, and just look at this texture. It just falls right apart. I mean, I'm barely touching it. And you got that super delicate texture. Fully cooked the whole way through. You see all that extra fat in that bag, fully circulating around it. We didn't start with too much fat, and then it all rendered out, and now we've got beautiful chicken confit. And if you want, you can keep it, save it, strain the fat off, confit something else, do more chicken. I'm gonna save that chicken thigh, keep the skin on. You can fry that, get a nice crispy skin. It's a nice texture contrast between the super succulent meat and then that nice crispy skin. Get the best of both worlds there. All right, that's it. Easy, simple. Just takes a little bit of time and preparation, but really worth it in the end.